Yes.
It's my first time in Rack Focus and my first nomination.
That's excellent. Now, are you an actor? Are you a
Acting.
filmmaker?
Both, actually. Yeah,
Okay,
I actually
cool.
came through it from filmmaking, and then this is my first major acting role. And
That's cool.
Yeah,
And he
it's
carried the
blown
whole
away.
film because it's just him in a bunker kind of thing because an apocalypse has happened.
Great. That's the next movie for Rack Focus, right?
That's
Daddy
actually a
Masquerade.
really good. That's a
Yeah.
good title.
The Daddy Masquerade.
Yeah.
All right. Some shot in the Dallas Eagle.
Yes.
Okay. Well, since you're here, Pierce, let's talk about your movie first. Tell us what's going on. You were one of the finalists for Israel's.
Yes.
Is it sixth?
Yeah, round 6 for
Round
Focus.
6 of
Wow.
Rack Focus, which explain Rack Focus for anybody who might
Yeah,
not know.
Rack Focus, it happens about every 4 to 5 months, so it's like twice a year. And filmmakers have 3 months to make a film, 10 minutes or less. And if you make the deadline, we premiere them all. The premiere just happened last weekend, and you've been a judge for it twice.
I have, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, premiere was at Texas Theater. Was that right?
Yeah, it was at the Texas Theater on November 12th, and we had such a great turnout, and we
That's
had
awesome.
21 films.
I love hearing that.
Yeah, and then his was one of the films, and the judges put together their nominees, and he was nominated for Best Actor.
Very honored to be nominated. Yeah, and this is our first time doing Rack Focus. This is the 6th round, of course, as he was saying. And it's really great to join in. It's a fantastic community, and I just feel really, really accepted. It's really awesome.
Now, tell us what's the name of your film?
It's Alive on Air.
Live on Air. Do you want to
Alive.
Alive on Air,
Alive
yes.
on Air. Pardon me. Do you want to kind of give a synopsis?
Sure. So it takes place after there's been a catastrophe, and now my main character, Ray Collins, he is alone in a bunker, and he is on a radio, much like this, trying to reach out, trying to see if he could reach out to anyone. And
Is there anybody left?
We'll see. I don't
No,
want to
I
give
mean,
anything
is
away.
that the idea?
Oh,
He's
yeah,
trying to
that's the
find
idea.
out if
He's
there's
trying,
anybody
he's
left.
trying to reach out to
I'm not
somebody
going to
else.
ask you to, give it
Yeah,
away.
I don't want to give away too much.
Go see the
Yes.
movie and
So
find
did you
out.
write
There you
it?
go. Yes. Yes, I did. I wrote it, and my director was Ryan Jones, who's also involved in Rack Focus. And then we wrote it, edited it, and then I also started. It was a heavy load, but it was well
That's
worth it.
awesome.
And without giving away any plot lines or anything, there is a voice that he discovers.
Yes. The hook. See.
So now
That's
it's like,
that's a hook, yeah.
what
Yes.
is it a person or what? So
Yeah.
it gets really creepy.
Oh,
Yes.
cool.
How cool
That's
is
very
that?
cool.
That was the little snippet of the. Was that
Of
your
the poster.
cover?
Yeah,
Of the
yeah, that was the
poster.
poster. Yeah,
Okay,
that was
that's
the
Man,
press
he's on the
conference.
ball over there.
Yeah,
I
he
know.
is.
Watch
Jay
out,
does not mess
Rufus.
around.
I know. Rufus better behave.
I
now.
know.
All right, well, that's great. You said 21 films total.
Yes,
were in
21
the-
films.
And how many are nominated for something? How many different films have?
Well,
nominations?
we have different awards. We have, of course, best film nominations. And we're going to be doing all of this coming Sunday here at Spayse Studios, starting at 7:00. It's a free event, so you can just come over and just watch the awards happen. But we have best actor, best actress, best supporting actor, best supporting actress, and the 3 top best films. And then we also have 2 awards that are nominated by the audience, which is the Outside the Box Award, which is the film.
That's the weirdest.
That's a good way to
That's
put
fun.
it. Yeah. And then the other one is, of course, the Audience Award, which is the one that the audience chooses as the overall best film.
Like a
Yeah.
People's Choice kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, some of my favorite films have been the out of the box
Outside the
award.
box, yeah.
Because they're so avant-garde, they're so interesting. It's like the mesh between art and film. Some
Which
of
is
them.
another way of saying weird.
Another way out of the
And that's
box.
a lot of weird
Yeah.
is good.
Yeah. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and it's one of my favorite categories. So I can't wait to see what and who is nominated.
Oh, and Brandy, if you had been a judge this round, you
I
would have
bet
loved it because there were such good films.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There really
like
Dang it.
like
It's very
cinematic quality.
Absolutely.
Well, I already
Really?
said I'm
That's
clearing my
very-
schedule for the next go around, and I will be there for
Okay.
sure. Yes.
Gotcha.
For sure.
We'll be looking for you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, well, that's great. I'm really excited to hear that it's doing so well. And then you have round 7. Is there something special?
Yeah, well, round 7. Okay, so for the people who win round 6, they will be eligible to enter round 7, which is going to be round 7 All Stars. And the winner of round 7 gets a fully funded full-length film with worldwide distribution attached.
Wow.
That's excellent.
Unheard of.
So is it all of the films that have won, like up until
round
7?
6.
Oh, up until round 6.
Yeah, so this round was, if you hadn't won an award yet, this round was like the last chance to be eligible for round
So
7.
it's any award. So if you
Not acting awards.
not acting, but just like
Film- best film awards.
Okay.
Best film,
Got it.
second best film, third best film, audience award, outside the box, or critics' choice.
Awesome.
All of those you're eligible for.
Excellent.
Wow.
On.
Yes,
Excellent.
and we actually have a clip, a short clip of him in
yeah.
the film.
That would be great. Can we
Oh,
show
yeah,
that real
show
quick?
that.
Great.
We'll show that, and then we can talk about it before we have to take a break.
Yeah.
Sure.
I love that.
Dun, 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 dun.
And I think his is the
The
middle one.
anticipation
of the
for
three.
it.
Dun.
And I'm sorry, Jay. We just kind of sprung it on you.
I know,
didn't we?
Jay.
Jay.
Sorry.
You're just so on the ball though. We
Yeah.
knew you could do it. So
Yeah, exactly.
this
We
is
would
really-
never ask Rufus to do that. Just kidding.
Got it. There it is.
Okay, here we go, y'all. Watch.
This is Ray Collins checking DX window 160 meters. I'm alive. If you're alive too,
Hear
you
it
can reach me
online.
at call sign N2ASD.
Well, I hope
It's November
if you're watching,
2
I hope.
Alpha Sierra Delta. I'm here. Don't worry, guys. We're gonna find somebody. We're alone. We're not alone. We're not crazy. We're not crazy.
So we've
Thank you so much.
so we've established you're not crazy.
I hear lots of echoes.
Hello, hello.
There we go.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, we're back. Okay.
This is true. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that looks
My mom told
really
me.
Good.
I'm not crazy. My mom had me tested. You know what Sheldon says? On Big Bang Theory? Sorry.
Oh yeah.
They're like, what the hell
Yeah.
are you talking about
Another
now?
show along with Will and Grace that I don't watch.
I haven't watched any of the new Will and Grace. either.
Oh, well, I haven't, and I don't watch Big Bang Theory, so.
Okay.
You're too young. We had that discussion. All you youngsters don't understand the social significance of Will and Grace.
Right.
I'm 25. So
What'd you
what
say?
was happening? I said I am 25.
Oh, okay.
So what was happening in that clip? So was that like the middle or the beginning or?
That was the crux right before. So those are the characters' moment of self-doubt, and they've been reaching out and they haven't heard any voices, any significant voices in a while. So he was trying to figure out what's really going on.
Yeah, and the cool thing about it, because they talked about it, after each film screens, they come up on stage and they talk, is you guys got help from the Dallas Film Commission for the location, right?
Yeah. So we did a film at the water treatment facility and the Dallas Film Commission. We were looking for a basement because you have to look pretty hard in Texas. And Dallas.
There's not a lot of them. Yeah.
Yeah, for a basement. So we had to scour that. A lot of it was location scouting. And Dallas Film Commission helped us out in hooking us up with the water treatment facility, which we got in there and we dressed and we lit. And it looks really
Yeah, it does. I mean, just from that little clip, I mean, you get the whole ambiance, you get the feel of it.
You get that whole claustrophobic. Thank you. Kill that bug. It came over here bothering me.
Yeah, it's
It's
this
still
gnat
back
is just
there.
flying
As
around.
long as it ain't got no mosquito with the Ebola. So,
But yeah, shout out to my director, Ryan Jones, and the cinematographer, John W. Brandy, for making it work.
it looked great, man.
Yeah.
It really looked good.
From
It
that
really
little
looked
clip.
good. Now, we got another guest over here that you can't see. She's off camera, but she's also a Rack Focus winner, and I think she gets murdered by a naked man.
We do.
Is that right? Oh, different film. Older film, sorry. She came back to be in this film. What is the name of your movie?
Here, come over here. Here, you can sit in my place for a second.
Okay, tell us. We got a couple minutes here. Tell me real quick about your film, and you're nominated for an acting award as well, right?
I am. Thank you so much.
Tell me your
Yes.
name.
It's Polly Kilgore,
There you go.
and my movie is Give an Inch, and it's a comedy. I play a good church lady
Okay.
who also happens to run a few porn sites.
Now that sounds like a very
Sounds just like
interesting,
me.
very interesting. Now,
Oh, yeah. Well, I changed them pretty much every time because I couldn't remember 'em. I got the script the day of. I was called in the night before. The lead actress was sick, and the writer-director is a dear friend, and he was like, I don't know whether you want to do this at the last second. And I was like, for you? Sure. And so I got the script on set, and I couldn't remember everything. So, yes, they asked me, and we have that clip if he wants to.
We do have a clip of her.
yes, let's see that one too. That'd be great.
Thank you so much.
Sure. Well, but as they're getting the clip, what is the name of the movie? Give an Inch.
Give an Inch.
Who's the writer, director of those things? Who's this?
Travis Travioso.
Travis Trevio. I
a
love
great
that name.
name.
Right? Oh,
Travis
Travis
Trevioso.
Trevioso. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that's excellent. So, and you're nominated for what? Best Actress?
Well, yes. I'm Best Supporting. I was
Oh, okay.
a lead, but I'm thrilled to be in supporting. I'm good
Okay.
with that. That's great.
Okay, cool. When we got this clip ready. Here we go. Let's watch Give an Inch.
In proof,
Uh-huh.
just to put my brother's mind at ease,
Uh-huh.
what was the name of your websites?
Well, I have a few. I have hotyoungboytoys.com, and I have barelylegalboys.com, and my favorite, which is knittingblankets.com. Matthew 4:20.
What scripture is that?
Oh, it's not a scripture. It's her name. This is Cassidy Matthews. See, she's my wonderful assistant. Thank you.
420.
I hope neither one of y'all mind. I've got breathing issues, so this is kind of like a treatment, you know? Okay. I am looking forward to working with you so much.
As are we.
And you know what the best thing is? Now we've got Jesus on our side.
Praise the Lord.
Absolutely. Praise Jesus. Let's go.
I love that Matthew 420. That's excellent.
Well, it was funny because so many people have told me, I didn't realize that was a joint you had in your hand. And I was like, well, didn't you hear Matthew 4:20?
That's excellent.
It's excellent.
But that last part of that was improv. I told the director, I was like, I feel like saying, now we've got Jesus on our side. And he's like, do it. And then Will responded. And so that last part about, praise Jesus and all that was completely improv.
That's
It's
cool.
awesome. Those are always the
That's
best
cool.
magical moments.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I've done improv for like 20 years. And I'm like, just tell me where we're going, and
Point
we'll
me in
have
the right
fun.
direction, and we'll get
we'll
there.
have fun. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we've reached the point of the first break, so we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in a minute.
Thank you so much for having
Sure.
me.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you for
thank
being
you
here.
all.
Yeah.
I love giving. In the next break. We've been talking about Rack Focus. We're going to shift gears a little bit. We're going to talk about what's going on for The Voice this week. If you can, be sure and pick up a copy. Can y'all see that? Oh, screw it. You can see it right back here.
Yeah.
That's our cover. Next, I think it's Monday the 20th. Is that right? Is Monday the 20th? Yes.
Yes.
1920,
Monday
yes.
the 20th is National Transgender Day of Remembrance, and there is going to be, and I'm going to read this to make sure that I'm not lying to everybody while I'm talking to you. Yes, Monday the 20th. It's going to be a National Transgender Day of Remembrance event. It's going to be in the Interfaith Peace Chapel at Cathedral of Hope, 5910 Cedar Springs Road. I don't know exactly what they're going to do for this event, but the idea is to honor and to remember the trans people, all the trans people who've been killed in the last 12 months since last year on Day of Remembrance, and to remember their names. And so that's a lot of times what they do is they, like when we had the quilt, when they were adding names to the quilt, they would read the names out loud, and that's what they're usually what they do is they read the names out loud. In 2017, this is not even counting someone who may have been killed. I think there was one lady who was killed in December last year, and the 25 does not include her. 25 transgender men and women have died violent deaths since the beginning of January.
Yeah.
Now, are most of these deaths murders?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they are. Some of them are unsolved. Some of them, at least one was a domestic violence. A trans man was murdered by his partner, his female partner. Two were trans men one was a trans man, one was a trans woman. And they were both shot to death. I can't necessarily say murdered, but they were shot by police, shot and killed by police.
Where was that? Do you know?
One, Sean Hake. Let me see. Sean was in Sharon, Pennsylvania. He was 23 years old. I believe he had some emotional problems. It was not a one-time thing.
Oh, that's the one.
His mom had called 911, and when the police arrived, he had a knife. He had
that
like
the
a
campus? Is that the
no.
one that
It's a
happened
different
on-
one. This was in a home.
Okay.
There's a different one. That was Scout. That was the
That's-
woman.
Okay.
But he had like a box cutter kind of thing, and he had threatened his mom with it. And the police were yelling at him to drop it, and he wouldn't, and they shot him. And a similar situation with Scout Schultz, who was at, I can't remember, it was on a college campus, and it was like,
Like, didn't she call 911?
she called 911 there was a 911 call, and I believe that she made the call and said there was someone who was drunk. I think she said there's a white male who's drunk and looks like he has a knife or a gun or something. And again, when the police arrived, campus police this time, and drop it. And I believe what she had was like a multi-tool, a Leatherman multi-tool kind of thing. You know, it has a little blade on it. She would not. Okay, that was September 16th, Georgia Tech.
That's what,
campus, and she was killed. But 25 people, 26 and counting, India, who I can't remember her last name, but who was killed in December last year. And that's in this country.
Yeah, and 90% of them are people of color as well.
The vast majority of trans people are trans women of color who are murdered.
And why do you think that is? Like, why?
I really don't.
Well, first of all, they're transgender. They're become targets.
They're triply oppressed.
They're women. Women are targets. They're black. People of color are targets. They're not necessarily black. They're people of color.
Right.
Black or Hispanic or something. They're people of color. Native American.
Yeah.
The
and those are the ones that the cops don't necessarily want to pay much attention to, right? Like,
yes.
It's like, ugh, whatever.
Sometimes, and that's one of the problems. There's probably a lot of other trans folk who've been murdered, but they're misgendered by the police. They're dead named, not necessarily just by the police, but by family members as well.
And, I was going to say, especially and I know in brown culture, and I know, my wife is black. In both of our cultures, we really don't talk about those kinds of things, especially, in our culture. I mean, your family is completely different, but we don't talk about being gay or being trans or and it's not visible in those communities. So we if we're misgendering and if we're not talking about it as a community ourselves, then of course it's going to fall by the wayside, with police and other people, because we're not being vocal about what's happening in our own community ourselves.
I'm sorry.
I'm just saying, being a triple minority, trying to do that's incredibly difficult because there's so much, there's a lot of, just within the African American community, a lot of bigotry just in that, and that's kind of difficult for, being homosexual or being trans.
The church, historically in the African American community, the church has had a huge impact, and sorry, church people, they want their choir directors and their pianists and their organists to be there and be part of the church, and so many times those folks are flamboyantly gay people, but who refuse to acknowledge that they are. So they accept them for come in and sing, come in and, lead our choir and play our piano. So say organ, but that would be more bad.
Especially if you just said pianist.
Yeah, I know. The pianist.
Pianist and an organ. It's like,
I know. Sorry. I knew I was pushing my luck.
I was like, don't laugh, Brady.
But see, I personally, when I go to visit my family, because they're up near Amarillo, up in the Panhandle, super, small town, is I try to take every opportunity to educate on anything, because we can talk about anything, like you said, and I'm always happy to do that, because I know this one morning, my uncle says something like, "Oh yeah, did you see that they're trying to get, men to go into the women's bathroom?" And I said,
Let's
no.
talk.
I said, y'all know my hair and makeup person. Y'all know Chaselyn, because they love Chase.
Chaselyn, yeah.
Love Chase. And they said, yeah. I said, can you imagine Chaselyn going into the men's bathroom?
Yeah.
They're like, well, no, she's a girl. I said, exactly, but the politicians put it in a way that they think that it's just, it's a different thing. I said, where should she go to the bathroom? Well, the girls' room. I said, okay, there you go. And then they're like, oh, okay, we get it.
Yeah.
But I make it a point to educate.
We got to call them out, man. We got to call them out.
Yeah.
Well, and we have it bad here. I mean, there's, we have, like I said, 25 people. That's a record number.
Yes.
And I hate to use the word record. Record number sounds like, oh, that's an accomplishment. It is not the kind of thing we want to tout as being an accomplishment. But last year there were 23. The year before there were 21. Every year more people. And, we have so much going on around the bathroom bills and about to Trump and his stupid tweets,
Yeah,
and
that's
it
what I was
really
gonna
puts
say.
it really puts a spotlight on people and makes them even more of a target.
Yeah, I feel like the energy and the ambiance and what's going on in our social political climate is really feeding into all of this hate rhetoric. And so we're
Absolutely.
seeing an uprising, of hate and hate crimes and on that level. And it's
Because they're
Just
rediscovering.
every
it
day.
makes me really nervous about what's going to happen. We still have 3 more years. You know what I mean? Like it
No,
makes
we
me really years.
Right.
I'm hoping we don't, but
Right.
I mean, I didn't think he was going to get elected either.
Oh,
And
yeah,
here we
I'm
are a
with-
year
yeah, you're
later, and
right,
I'm like,
you're right.
What the
See, and,
fuck?
and I think
Yeah.
you're right, because with these politicians that are coming up, they're discovering that hate has an audience.
Yes.
That's exactly
And
right.
they're
And it has a
discovering that.
dividend. It
Yeah.
pays them political
exactly.
dividends.
Right.
Exactly.
It does,
Really
and
sad.
so, and just the normal people who, for a while, were starting to realize, oh, I can't say that word, and that's not okay, and now they think, well, it is.
Yeah.
And
now they're
it's
throwing
being
around
applauded,
words that's, yeah.
and all of the
Yeah.
physical manifestations and the violence that goes with it, because words do hurt. Childhood rhymes be damned, words can hurt. I want to point out, I said 25 people in the United States have been killed in the last 12 months. Around the world, y'all, more than 300 trans people have died violently in the last 12 months. You can go to a website. It's tdor.info.
Yeah.
Texas, or Transgender Day of Remembrance.info, TDOR, and you see a list. It's separated by country, and then within the countries, it's separated by date, chronologically by date. 300. In Brazil, 150-something people in the past year.
Wow.
Mexico was 47, I think. United States was third with 25.
Wow.
Okay. You can read in the story that we put together that's in the paper. You see their names. You see the date when they died. You see their names, and then a brief rundown of how they died and what the status is of those cases. I did not do that for the ones from around the world. I couldn't. I don't have space, but I want you to go and read them. I did kind of focus on one because this has been a viral video online.
Oh, I know what video
Her
you're
name
talking
was
about.
Dandara dos Santos, and I think she was 30-something. I can't remember exactly how old she was, but she was a relatively young woman. She lived in Brazil. There is a video online. It is gut-wrenching. It shows a group of men and teenage boys pulling her out of her home into the street and they beat her. They beat her with their fists. They beat her with a plank. They kick her in her face. She's there on her knees in the road, bloody, begging for her life. And then they pick her up and they throw her in a wheelbarrow. And the last that you see is them pushing her away in this wheelbarrow. And you don't see it on video, but they pushed her a couple of streets over. They shot her twice in the face, and then they bashed her head in with a rock. So, yeah, they didn't just kill her. And she had not done anything to them. They tortured her. They beat her, they murdered her. That's the kind of thing that you'll see when you read about these people and how they died. And then you turn around and you see people in places of power in this country, people like Dan Patrick, people like Greg Abbott, people like Donald Trump, Mike Pence. You see these people in places of power who put a target on these women's and these men's backs. And we let that go. If we don't stand up and do something about it, then as far as I'm concerned, we're just as guilty if we're not willing to stand up and fight back.
I agree.
So, remember their names. Remember them, and remember that they were more than just a horrific death, and then do something about it. So, we got to take another break. We'll be back in a minute. That video. over the break here. I think let's carry this conversation live too. We were talking about the images. We were talking about that video that I just described at Dandara dos Santos. And then the images, photographs, and videos from. There's so many horrific things that are happening. You can't turn around without there being another mass shooting somewhere. And the images from that, the video, the images, the photographic evidence of these. Do we or do we not make those public? I was talking this morning. I had the opportunity to speak at a convention of high school journalists. Like 5,000 high school kids from around the world. And I had a chance, we did this like round table thing, and from 9 to 10, I sat and these kids just came and they sat and we talked about, one of the things we talked about, because they were supposed to be talking to some actual photojournalists who were not able to be there, so I'm stand-in. So that was one of the things we talked about was iconic photos and how these images make a difference. And I said, tell me a photo that a famous photo that you can think of. I know this, and the falling man from 9/11.
Yes, that
okay.
one. Yes.
The woman from 9/11 with the ashes all over her face. They were talking about the different things, and one of them mentioned a photo from the Vietnam War. Do y'all know which one I'm talking about? The little girl.
Yes, I know
running
exactly.
naked.
Yep.
From the napalm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
If I may be mistaken, but that image, it was the images that came out of the Vietnam War had a huge impact on what happened with that war. And I think that and some of the images that were part of that whole photo essay, that image of that little girl, those children burning from napalm, I think that, that made them stop using napalm.
Yes, because we're so desensitized.
Mm-hmm.
Like we are so desensitized when it comes to war, and it happens over there. And like I was saying in the break, there's a disassociation, and I think that it's not like people will call it like a shock value. It's not. It's fucking reality.
It is reality.
It is reality. Like this is what's happening to people, and I think you need to be, and if it shocks you out of your complacency and out of not doing anything and not being active, then
get up and do something.
Yeah.
That's what changed it. The images was what changed the public opinion of the Vietnam War.
Exactly.
Like I said, those images, decades later, still stick with you.
exactly.
And I think that has more power.
Exactly. You were talking about not wanting to see it.
Yeah,
I can understand, but
yeah, because the way Facebook works now is you're scrolling through the wall, and now video is just playing automatically, except you just can't hear it.
You can turn that off.
Yeah, right. But at that moment, for me, I think to myself, especially if it's just a horrific image of like two people fighting, and everyone thinks, oh, it's really funny, but they're like hitting each other and they're making each other bleed, and it's like they're breaking each other's noses. I can't watch those. And then when I see things like this, like with this, the transgender woman, and being beat, I think to myself, I know how horrific this world is. I don't have to see something to say, oh, wow, it's that horrific. I know how horrific it is.
I completely understand that, which is why, I'm a vegetarian and I'm a vegan. I'm like, I don't need to see what's happening in those, farm factories, because I know. I don't need to see it. That's why I'm a vegetarian. That's why I'm a vegan, all of that. But what I'm really interested about is you made a whole film that was violent against trans, but that's a reality too. And so, a lot of people, like, they said that they didn't want to watch it because it was too real for them. So
Right. No, absolutely. And I think for me,
But
it's
people
just
choose to get up and go to the movie theater
Well,
to see that, right?
Right. But for me, I know it's fake because everything that I'm doing is acting, it's fake blood, so I can do it. Now, for people watching it raw, not knowing, of how I'm seeing it technically, they're just seeing it as a storyline. It's very violent, and I want it to be violent for them. But it's just like when I get blood taken, I can't see that.
I
can
can't
do
watch it either.
bloody
I can't
everything,
either.
but
I can't do it.
but it's real.
Yeah.
That's the
It's
difference.
it's real and it's mine.
right now.
It's real and it's mine. Yes.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
thank
My
you.
hands are
I don't mind them
sweaty.
poking you. Don't put the needle in my arm.
And I know that I do have friends. I have like a brother who sent me a video. He says, "Oh my God, can you believe this?" And it was a guy committing suicide in
my
a
God.
jail cell. And I watched it and I was so pissed off. And I was like, why didn't you tell me what it was? I don't want to see those things. I don't want to see them because I know.
Well, let me ask you a question.
That's just how I see it.
Let's think about the Newtown shooting in the elementary school. Okay, I don't want to see those babies. I know y'all don't want to see those babies, those teachers murdered in those classrooms. But if we take those photos and we make those photos public and make people see them, and it will change these goddamn gun control laws.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like it needs to be out there. Like, if people have photos, it's public domain. It's a public's right to
I
see
agree
it.
with that.
So change can be created. I think you should have a choice on whether or not you want to see
but I do
it or
feel
view
that they
it.
should exist.
But I think that they need to exist in
But
a
we
domain.
have to do something where those babies' parents or those teachers' husbands or wives or whomever are not going to accidentally see that. I don't want them to see that.
It's like this season of American Horror Story Cult. Like I
gotta watch that.
it's so good. It's the best one. I haven't watched the last two, so don't ruin it for me.
I haven't seen any of them.
But
I'm
there
waiting.
was the shooting that happened in Vegas happened like literally like the weekend before Ryan Murphy was filming Sarah Paulson going through and shooting Evan Peters and blah 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 blah.
Well, she just ruined it for me.
Sorry, I know. I was like, I started talking. I was like, but he doesn't
No,
die.
it's okay.
Okay. Anyways.
Some people are
think-
shooting other people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so- well, I mean, I don't know. He may in the last two, but he was wondering if he should air the full footage because it was so close to the Vegas attacks, and he was worried about how people were going to react. But I think that also, I mean, and he aired some of it, but he said he edited it down a whole lot. But I think that that's also, it's art. And especially if it just happened, then I think that gets people talking even more so. I mean, I understand like the family, and I know that might be traumatizing and triggering for some people, but for others, they need to see that.
At the same time, you have to look at it this way as well, because I think he was very smart with still showing it but editing some of it out.
Yeah.
Because this is what you're going to get if it was soon after the Vegas shooting and then he puts it unedited the way he intended.
Yeah.
People are going to say, "Oh, he's trying to make money off of this tragedy."
But then they're
Because they
morons
don't
to begin
know.
with because
they don't know that he wrote it
But
months
girl-
before.
because
you know?
they film. I mean, you can't
Girl,
expect you see it
They're
every
morons.
week, but it
You
doesn't
just said
mean-
the problem
don't
right there.
understand
They are morons anyway.
Honestly, they don't realize that it was
Months in
shot a year ago.
advance.
they don't realize that, and then
Well, then they
bash
need to do
it.
their research.
They
Morons.
do, but they're not.
That's
They're,
that's the
she's
key
right.
word there. That
That's
is our
right.
word
They
of the
are
day.
morons, you know.
And you can't do, whatever.
Yeah.
You got to deal with the morons.
And
you got to
speaking
walk
of that-
outside your damn house. You're going to deal with some morons.
And speaking of that, when you were talking about the Day of Remembrance and everything, it makes me so proud to have made my movie Ticked Off Trannies with Knives, because that's what I did it for. It was because there
I
was so
remember
much
we talked.
violence toward
Yeah.
the trans community especially, and I wanted to make a movie. And one of the best rewards that I got was one of the audience members, who was a trans female. She stood up and she said, "It was tough for me to watch your movie, but at the very end, when the women get their revenge and she got that huge machete knife and slammed him in the head, and he's there as the other ones are throwing knives at him and they slaughter him and he falls," she said, "it gave me this wonderful release."
Yeah.
And she said, because I have never seen that in a film, and that I never forgot.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there, the end of Ticked Off Trannies has just been ruined for you as well.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, spoiler
Actually,
alert.
that
This
was
whole episode
that was
is
a part of
spoiler
my
alert.
marketing. I said the movie is about transgender women who are left for dead. They come back, they seek revenge, and they slaughter the guys and kill them, and then they all live happily ever
And
after
people
at the
still
end.
love the movie. Yeah,
Yeah.
even though he's
That's
spoiled.
how I marketed
and
it.
that's what I want to talk about real quick. I mean, because I've got two filmmakers here on the panel today. Let's talk about that use of I mean, I remember when you were making the film, when we were gearing up for the release, and all the shit was hitting the fan.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Controversy,
man, and
protests.
people hated you,
Yes.
and other people loved you. But we're talking about a movie that's extremely violent, but you had a message
Yes.
in your violence, because you told me that going in. You know, I want these women to have a chance to get some revenge. I want people to feel that satisfaction.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so what role do you see violence playing in your movies? You know, are you just doing it for the shock value? What are you doing?
I think, I haven't seen TikTok Trans Nice, but it's on my list now.
Yay!
But I think something like that can actually really help with oppressed communities. If you go back to like Sweet Sweetback's Badass Song and Shaft and stuff,
Yes.
those were sensationalist, but they also did a lot for a community that was underrepresented at the time, and
Mm-hmm.
really needing that release and needing to see themselves on the screen and fighting against who they were felt oppressed by. So I think it has a transformative experience in that essence. So that's what I love about film, and I got to check out.
Oh man,
Thank you.
it is a classic, and that was one of the things. You know, you talk about the blaxploitation films and the grindhouse, and that's
Mine was transploitation.
that's
what I
was
called
the
it.
point. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, he was paying homage to those films.
Yeah, and I wanted it to be violent at the very beginning when the girls get bashed, because you have to make the audience hate those villains.
Right.
So when they get their revenge, you're rooting for them and
Yeah.
you cheer for them at the end. Like, yes, get them back. You have to have that. And as the
And
filmmaker,
that's
you
real
have to make
life,
them be
too.
invested.
I mean, you know, that's real life. Like what you showed and how they were violently beaten in that scene is real life. That's exactly what happened to her.
Yes.
Like this is,
Right.
you're not showing the audience anything that did
You're
not
not
happen.
exaggerating what
No.
happens
Right.
to these women.
No.
You know, they're not just shot. They're shot in the face 5 times. They're not just hit. They're stoned to death. You know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, and
they're
that's
not
why
just stabbed. They're
and it-
slashed apart and
And in my
decapitated.
film, I didn't want the girls just to come back at the end and kill the guys. I said, no, I want them to slowly torture them
Yeah.
and then have fun with them and then slowly kill them off. And then with the big bang at the very end, not just one stab, but a stab, a gunshot, a knife being thrown and it hits them in the mouth, another knife, just one after another
Yeah.
for you to get that satisfaction of just, yeah. And then you see the blood squirting out of his head and then he falls down.
Yeah.
And then one of them says, I'm hungry. And the movie ends.
Yeah, it's perfect.
At Willem, right?
It was actually
Alexis.
Calexis.
I was like, I think that's Alexis.
I thought it was
It was
Will.
Yeah.
Calexis.
Okay, that sounded like Will.
Yeah.
But when are we going to have our LGBT exploitation film where we get to have our revenge?
Well, you know, I
guys?
continued it with the sequel
Zombies.
/ companion piece, Kicking Zombie Ass for Jesus. The lead
also
is
has a message. It's also gory and violent.
Yep, and the lead is transgender, and she's up against the church people, barricaded themselves. The storyline is pretty much a zombie apocalypse has happened. The
church-
survivors of a small town barricade themselves in a building, and then they discover half of them are the LGBT community, the other half are Bible thumpers. Now, what happens? What do they do?
Yeah, it's
really
fun.
good.
If you haven't seen it, man, it's a total fun movie.
Yeah.
All right, we got to take another break. We'll be back in a minute. Y'all come back. live on the internet. So yeah, that was from the 70s though. They had a whole like fairy tale list of Alice in Wonderland, Pinocchio, some others, Sleeping Beauty.
Call of Booty.
Call of Booty.
But was it Call of Duty that is? There's one that all of the right wing is video games. People, we're talking about violent video games because y'all didn't get to hear this in the break. But there's one called Wolfenstein. Castle Wolfenstein.
What's going on with that?
So in that one, you've been fighting Nazis for the longest period of time. That's it. And this is like a multiple iterations of the game. So the latest one, you're fighting Nazis, and they have this promotional. It's like, Nazis, not in America. And then everyone was like, really? You're getting political? Which before it's like, really fighting Nazis is political? That's a political statement now? Is that you can't say we're against Nazis anymore?
Yeah, is it like the Nazis run the country and these are people fighting back against them?
You're invading a Nazi.
I thought they were here.
Yeah, it's like I think it's like an alternate timeline type of thing.
Yeah, but I mean they're here in this country.
Yeah. And so the
and the white ring,
well, that too.
the white right is all up in arms about it. They are just, how dare you come after us because you're Nazis, you asshole.
I'm never going to call them the alt-right. They're white supremacists.
They're so white.
They're racist.
I hate alt-right.
That's what
I
they
cannot
are.
stand that word.
I don't want alt-right to become a thing.
No.
It's already a thing.
It is a thing. They're
trying.
It a thing.
I'm not going. I refuse.
It's not a thing with Israel, damn it.
It's
so
not.
therefore, it's not a thing.
They're freaking racist.
Pigs.
Pigs. Yeah, that's what they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh? Snowflakes.
Right. Yeah. But I hate when people bring that up about like, it's video games this, it's music this. It's like, how about you just start taking responsibility for not raising your kids?
That's how I feel.
I'm kind of with you on that. Yeah.
I mean, we watched Bugs Bunny. We watched
Kill the Rabbit.
Kill the
Rabbit.
Elmer Fudd shooting them in the face. It didn't make us want to go shoot people in the face.
No.
We knew the
or
difference.
Bunnies. We don't
I didn't want to shoot bunnies
either.
either. I wanted them to come live in my house.
That was cartoons, and then we'd go outside and
understand.
play.
Yeah.
Brunhilde.
Yeah.
I was very much raised on video games. I don't even. It's not my thing.
Yeah.
Well, my kids play video games. They play the violent Call of Wolfenstein games.
Yeah.
And Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah.
But they don't go out and shoot hookers and people.
Steal cars. Yeah.
Never shot a single hooker.
I have never shot a hooker. There's been a couple of times I felt like
face.
not that kind of shooting, not those kind of hookers, you idiot. Oh, sorry, I don't like that word. I shouldn't have said that one.
That's so funny.
But if I ever call you moron, then you'd be mad at me because that's my word for real
moron
people.
is-
Gotcha.
All right. Yeah, that was bad. Let's hope Leo's not listening to that one, y'all.
Sorry, Leo.
Not my fault. It's Tammy's fault.
It always is. But yeah, my kids don't do that stuff. And kids who are taught that, that's a game. This is real life.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. Now, can I say something? Because, when we were talking about the
I suppose.
Transgender Day of Remembrance, and then, we were just discussing like the terrible video and all that stuff, I would like to say a couple of things on the bright side, which was the thing that just happened in Australia about the same sex that has just passed.
Yes, indeed.
Which is really good.
But that's not a legal thing. That was a referendum to see what they thought about it. The government has to step in and actually make it legal.
Okay. So, but
the government
now
wanted
it's
to
in
see what the
process.
people thought.
There,
But now
it's there. It's in the air now. So
It's in the process of
beginning,
doing it. The government now knows that they're not going to all get voted out of office, so they'll do it.
Gotcha.
Oh, gotcha.
And also the transgender woman who won the seat in the House of
Danica Rome.
Yes,
Virginia.
Virginia.
Yeah.
Over the transphobic.
Except the chief
Chief
homophobe.
homophobe. Yes, indeed. That was a wonderful,
the one who
wonderful
wrote the
thing.
bill, I was like, karma. Yeah.
Yes.
And who was it? I think it was. I was watching Seth Meyers, and he was talking about how they had asked her, how do you feel about, everything that he said about you, and then you ended up winning. And she said, well, I don't talk bad about my constituents. And now he's actually a constituent.
She did say that. That was
like,
fabulous.
Yes.
And there were like 7 openly trans people elected to public office
Yes.
in this election. You in Minneapolis? Was it Minneapolis? You had a trans man and a trans woman, both people of color, elected to the same city council.
Oh, yeah.
You had Palm Springs. Everybody on their city council now is LGBT.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That's really.
They had a
Great.
trans lady who was elected there. We had
That's awesome.
lesbians elected mayor of somewhere in Portland,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oregon. Not somewhere in Portland, somewhere in Oregon. or Oregon.
Oregon.
Not Oregon.
Not Oregon.
I could see that look in your eye. You're coming for me there. Yeah, the elections were fantastic.
Yeah, because like it's like the Democrats were like winning like everywhere. It's almost like this is the message to the current administration. It's like we're still fighting back.
There is a backlash against your moronic, hateful
Which makes me
bullshit.
feel so good because like when we were talking about earlier how hate has an audience, I'm so glad that so do we, like the other
Yes.
side,
Yes.
which is the nice, hey, let's all just be equal and love each other. Yeah,
let's coexist.
Dude, we have a couple of minutes left, and talking about bright points in elections, hopefully we're going to have another bright point in an election in December. I can't remember which day it is. It's a special election to fill Jeff Sessions' Senate seat from Alabama, the U.S. Senate. There's the Republican candidate. His name is Roy Moore. He was a former state Supreme Court justice, a current idiot. Current moron, and apparently a pedophile. So,
He's the
over
one
the
that dresses
past,
up in like cowboy.
The cowboy.
yeah,
With the cowboy
and carries
hat.
his gun around,
Yeah.
and little gun. Did y'all notice how small? And
Yeah.
in the last week or so, the Washington Post has published the article, and then things have been piling on since then. That when he was in his 30s and an attorney, like a district attorney in one of the counties or something, he was dating teenage girls, including one who was 14.
trying to.
Well, he
No, he
did
did
date a
date.
couple.
Oh, he
He
did.
dated the
Yeah.
14-year-old,
Okay.
and there was actual sexual encounter, although not, I think, intercourse. He did not have intercourse with that woman. But there was a sexual part to their dating life. She was 14. And I think he was like 33 or 32. 32.
Yeah.
And then there were like 16-year-olds, several underage, and then they say, well, they wouldn't let him in the mall because he was always harassing the
Yeah,
girls.
it's like
and
that came out. Yeah,
Yeah.
he wasn't allowed in the mall because
Right,
he
I
was
remember that.
harassing.
and
teenagers.
several other women who were teenagers at that point have come up.
And he just refuses to just continue on because he thinks, oh no, Trump can do it, so I can too.
That's how I
That's his
feel.
motivation.
Yeah,
You
and
know it is.
And,
Here's
and
one
he's
of-
still he's still president, which makes it
Trump
even
is, not
worse.
Roy Moore.
No, not Roy Moore. Trump is still president, so it's like he's invincible. Like he feels invincible because the
yeah.
the biggest ass is still there.
Is running
The grabbing ass.
Yeah.
Right. We
Exactly.
get you.
It's a
Well, you
good
know
old
it, the-
boy white club. Yeah.
The evangelicals and the Republicans and it was an actual elected official. Well, Mary was a teenager and
Oh, my
Joseph
God.
was growing up, and they had
That was like
Jesus.
yeah.
I'm like,
Oh, in
seriously,
that
dude?
case, everything's
Did y'all?
okay.
Did you forget the whole virgin birth thing?
But where are all the Bible thumpers? Like, why weren't they pissed
They are-
off that they said something about, like, in
they're
reference
the
to?
they're the ones thumping.
Yeah, they're probably agreeing. Yep. Amen. Hallelujah.
I just don't
Because
understand.
Lord God, we'd rather have a pedophile than some homosexual.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Virgin Mary. Virgin Mary. And, Joseph really wasn't involved in that. He just was kind of hanging out, He's like, where'd that come from? Okay.
Yeah. And he's never actually said, like that one radio show, was it on Hannity or something? where
Sean
they-
Hannity, where they were burning their Keurigs.
Well, no, I'm just
Oh,
saying
Lord.
they had just
yeah.
asked him about it, and they said, "Have you ever dated someone underage?" Well, no, not necessarily. I mean, I don't make it a habit. I mean, he practically said yes.
yes.
I never dated
Yes.
anybody without their mama's permission. He said that, y'all. Here's
my
another
God.
thing. You talking about the Keurig.
Yes.
Let's
the
let's
Keurig
all
protest.
say yay for Keurig and Volvo and anybody else that pulled their
No, but
advertising
they
from Sean.
apologized.
Yeah,
they
but-
apologized later. No, screw that. Go Starbucks.
I'm still going. Starbucks.
Go
I'm not a
Starbucks,
big
go
Starbucks.
Nespresso.
Oh, Starbucks with the lesbians on the cup. Yeah, we like them.
Yes.
But here's the thing: all these people are protesting Keurig by tearing up shit they already paid money
Exactly.
Oh
They've
my
already.
God.
It's
Again,
Smart
let's
people.
all say
Smart
it together.
Yep.
Morons. Okay, I think we've actually come to the end of our show. We got a couple minutes. We're going to take a break, come back, and just wrap it up. So don't go anywhere. God knows what you might miss.
Crazy people.
That was a fun show. I'm so glad you're here.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate you standing in, and you too. Thank you for standing in and chatting with us, man. Oh, we back. We are back. We are back. We got like 2 minutes. We're going to wrap up. We brought back everybody so we can all say who we are and what we're doing. And Israel, go.
Israel, please come out on Sunday. It's a free event. Come and watch the winners get their awards for Rack Focus Round 6 of Sunday starting at 7 o'clock.
At Spayse Studios on Regal Road. What's your actual address?
1499 Regal Row, Suite 505.
On the back side.
505.
All right. And you're here. This is one of our nominees for an award.
I'm Polly Kilgore. I'm in Give an Inch, and I'm up for Best Supporting Actress.
Excellent. Excellent.
Brandy Mara Sky, you can find my writings at bet.com, Curve Magazine, and I'm going to have a new story coming out in the Dallas Voice this Friday.
Yeah, and we have this week's trending tea went up yesterday, so it's online.
Yes, it did.
It's a good one to read.
Did you get it?
There's
and
one over there, too.
If you killed it, 5 more will grow in its place. And they'd be gray. Okay, and?
And Paris Brown also starred in Live on Air and nominated for Best Actor. So also, as Israel was saying, come to the award show.
Yeah, come see it all. And I'm Tammy Nash. I'm managing editor for Dallas Voice. We will not be here next week because it's Thanksgiving and I'm going to be too full of turkey. But we will be back the next week, except for Brandy, who thinks she gets to go on vacation and shit.
I'm going to go on vacation.
But we will have a wonderful panel to discuss things week after next, Friday after next. Y'all come see us then. And go to DallasVoice.com. Don't forget Transgender Day of Remembrance Monday at Cathedral of Hope. Thank you all.
Bye. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Happy